fresh week to report stories making the rounds across Africa. Glad to have you join us today on Network Africa. Welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend. On Saturday, Burkina Faso's Minister of State, Basolma Bazi, spoke out against French policy in Africa during an address to the United Nations General Assembly. France has maintained strong ties with its former colonies and has troops stationed across West Africa. But hostility towards its presence has soared since a string of military coups. Burkina Faso's self-appointed transition government has already ordered the departure of France's ambassador. Anti-French sentiment has grown since Burkina Faso first fell under military rule in January 2022, but Bazi denies anti-French sentiment in the country. Still on Saturday, hundreds of demonstrators gathered in the Ghanaian capital, Accra, for a third day of anti-government protests linked to economic hardship that have led to dozens of arrests. Protesters, some waving placards or the Ghanaian flag, decried the high cost of living and a lack of jobs as they marched under the watch of riot police.
The average Ghanaian can't afford a 3 square meal. This is very, very dangerous to the whole country. We have cases among the age of 14, 15 who are now taking people's belongings just to survive. The government that doesn't care, are just selling money. And the average Ghanaian can't do nothing, but their time is up. We are here and we will fight. If no one cares, the youth cares. And when the youth cares, then the country must care.
I want the government to listen to us. I want them to know what's going on. I mean, it's like they pay the death here for everything that's happening. We really want them to know that, yo, it's not easy. Ghana is tough now. Tough. Like, we've never seen this before. I mean, in more than 40 years of existence as a Ghanaian, I've never seen this before.
I've never seen a policeman in America. I've never seen the citizen of America from
exercising their constitutional right.
What is happening here?
Tell him.
Don't we have right to demonstrate?
Tell him.
Don't we?
The gold, oil and cocoa producing nation has been battling its worst economic crisis in a generation brought on by spiraling public debt. On Sunday, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin kicked off his Africa trip, meeting with President and Minister of Defense of Djibouti. Austin's reinforced cooperation between the two nations and discussed efforts to enhance military cooperation and increased regional stability.
And the United States is proud to partner with you and the African Union forces in support of your neighbor Somalia. Our partnership is crucial to tackling the many other transnational challenges that threaten both of our countries.
His tour started with a landing in Djibouti and will also include significant stops in Kenya and Angola. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is in Somalia as part of his Africa tour and has met with President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed to discuss Islamist insurgency in the country. Fight against the Al-Qaeda-linked group has waged interest in Somalia for more than 15 years. The latest being clashes between the Somali government and Al-Shabaab militants that left at least 10 people dead in the central town of Balandwayn. The United States supports Somalia with military and humanitarian aid, and as well as help Somali troops by conducting airstrikes against Al-Shabaab. Mr. Austin, who is on a 3-nation tour, is expected to visit Kenya's capital, Nairobi, to sign defense agreements and to wind down his tour in Angola. It seems as though Kenya's President William Ruto has a lot lined up on his manifesto, and 5 years might not be enough for him to deliver his motives to the people of Kenya. This is why the Senator of Nandi County, Samson Charagie, who belongs to the ruling coalition in the country, is proposing an extension of presidential term limits from 5 to 7 years. However, Kenyans have been reacting to this proposal, which has sparked an uproar and outrage, with the opposition accusing the government of plotting to abolish presidential term limits. Kenya's constitution sets a 2-term presidential limit, and any change would require a referendum. Joining us now is the VOA's correspondent, Mohammed Yusuf, who joins us from Nairobi, Kenya. Mohammed, great to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
Right, so has there been any immediate comments or reaction from Kenyan President William Ruto regarding this? We know Kenyans are not taking this lightly.
There's a reaction from his ruling party, United Democratic Alliance, from the Secretary General, distancing himself, the party, the president, from all this pronouncement, all these proposals, saying that the president has sworn in to respect the constitution and uphold the constitution, which of course talks of 2 terms, a limit of 10 years. And the president is much concerned developing the country. It's not a debate that they're having at the moment. That is what the Secretary General of the UDA, the ruling party, is saying. But the senator, of course, is providing this sort of announcement or proposal. And today he was speaking at the parliament to reporters, journalists in parliament buildings, and he was trying to give reasons behind some of the proposals, some of the suggestions he was trying to give. And he spoke of 5 years not being enough, 7 years will be good. He's talking of maybe a year, the country wasting 1 year for political campaigns, another year political litigations, the government taking a lot of time to build the cabinet and putting up the structures together. But we all know that it took about 2.5 months since the presidential results were announced in mid-August until the end of October, when the president was sworn in. There was already the legal aspect of it was exhausted. The swearing in took place. He named his cabinet. The parliament approved. It took 2.5 months for all of that. But he's talking of government wasting a year. Many will wonder where that 1 year comes from. But literally, from factual perspective, it took 2.5 months to establish all of that. So generally, Kenyans are not happy with it. Some politicians from the ruling party have also criticized. Opposition members have also criticized. And that's generally what the sentiments coming out from the public.
Right. So we did say that, if for an extension of a presidential term, it will require a referendum. So what kind of shape would that take should in case it does go to referendum? What does the Constitution say about it?
Yeah, of course, if you want to alter the constitution, particularly the issue when it comes to governance or issue of term limits, of course, you need a referendum to do that. And is Kenya ready for that? We all know generally Africa, not only Kenya, some of these issues, particularly when it comes to presidential term limits, is a very serious issue for many. And these days it has become a very emotive issue because many Africans are also understanding that election has its own problems, has its own challenges. Many countries have complained about presidential results, the voting systems everywhere in the continent. So if you're going to push again more years for someone to extend, that is going to create more problems for the country. But if you generally look at the Kenyan system itself, many Kenyans are not going to allow that to take place. We spoke to some experts. They're basically saying, look, this is one way to divert people's attention from the real issues that is affecting the country or the population, particularly the economic aspect of it. We all know that this month Kenya increased petroleum prices, and it went for the first time above 200, and now it's 211 shillings. And already people have been complaining of high cost of living, and now this is going to worsen the situation as it takes case. So these are the issues some experts feel that the ruling party is trying to divert people's attention from the real issues and talk about this 2-year extension from 5 years to 7 years. And they expect this debate to continue for a month and then to wind down, and something else will come. And that's what experts view as it is, just one way of African governments trying to divert people's attention. And this may not be different.
Right, and many wonder what Senator Samson Cherargei stands to gain. Why is he the one proposing this extension from 5 to 7 years? Is it because he's a lawmaker, or, and why not the president himself? That's perhaps if Mr. Ruto chooses to run for another term.
It's quite difficult for a president actually to come out and say that I want 2 more years. It rarely happens in many African contexts. Of course, there are people who push for this kind of agendas, this kind of debates. And Cherargei may not be different from any African politician or leader or who is close to the president or the ruling parties across the continent. He's the one is just pushing those agendas, and particularly, what do we know? Do we know maybe he's talking on behalf of the ruling party, or he's talking for his own behalf? But in this case, it's more of what people read is just to divert people's attention, because there are really a lot of problems. There's a lot of talks. Kenyans are really feeling the high cost of living, and this is now where the real problem is. And this, how it's being translated, is not seen as a real or a serious problem, but is more of a government trying to divert people's attention. But whether they're serious about it, I think we will know that, because he's provided his opinions and what he thinks to the committee, which is represented by the government and the opposition. We'll see in the coming days what they will think of that, whether it's on the table to be debated. But that we will know in the coming days if that's something very serious to discuss.
Right. Thanks again, Mohammed, for that update. Let's move on. Over in Ethiopia, where fighting between government troops and local militias are continuing in the Amara region. The historic city of Gondar was under heavy attack on Sunday after local militia, also known as the Fano Group, gained entry into the region, prompting intense clashes with the army. The fierce battle was confirmed in a statement by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. It adds that government security forces thwarted local militia attacks, killing more than 50 people. Elsewhere, there's been rumors of a coup in Burundi, a country which has experienced more than 10 successful and failed coups. However, the country's president, Evariste Ndayishimiye, has come out to condemn the allegations of a military takeover against him while he was away on official assignments. Upon his arrival in the country, the president gave an address to clarify and debunk the narratives of a coup plot circulating on social media, while he blamed people who have always wanted to paint a bad image of Burundi. Earlier, the country's Minister of Interior urged members of the public not to pay attention to what he called rumors that is distracting the government. President Emmanuel Macron of France says his country will withdraw its ambassador and end all military cooperation with Niger Republic following a coup. Mr. Macron also adds that the military cooperation is over in Niger and French troops would leave in months to come. The military junta, which seized power in Niger Republic in July, has welcomed the move, calling it a new step towards sovereignty. There are about 1,500 French soldiers in the landlocked West African country, helping it to fight Islamist militants. The U.S. also has more than 1,000 troops in Niger, but these have not been asked to leave. The decision by Paris follows months of animosity and protests against the French presence in its former colony, with regular demonstrations in the capital, Niamey. The government of Benin Republic has ordered an assessment of all fuel storage facilities in the wake of the deadly explosion that killed dozens of people over the weekend. At least 34 people were killed on Saturday after an explosion at a fuel depot in southern Benin. A statement from the Decentralization and Governance Ministry said the order for an exhaustive assessment of all fuel depots is to prevent a similar incident from occurring in other areas. Saturday's accident happened at a depot in a densely populated market in the southern town of Semepoji, near the border with Nigeria. Benin's Interior Minister Alassane Saidu told reporters that 2 babies were among those killed in the incident. At least 20 more people were injured and are being treated in hospital. The refugee issues have always been important to the UN, as more than 110 million individuals have been forcibly displaced worldwide. On the sidelines of the just concluded 78th UN General Assembly, the UNHCR Deputy High Commissioner for Refugees, Kelly Clements, highlighted the importance of reintegration to achieve inclusion. She emphasized the role of local school systems and national developments in enabling refugees able to give back to their communities.
This is not just a humanitarian challenge for the international community, for the world. It's also a development challenge. And this is why, the Global Compact on Refugees, it was about inclusion. It's about what Adriana is saying now. Include refugees into local school systems, national development plans. That's the most affordable, economic way for then refugees to be able to give back to their host communities and invest in the future. And this is what the compact is all about. It's about inclusion. And so for us, for the UN Refugee Agency, we can support through advocacy. Some governments are actually taking serious steps. Mexico is a good example of this, but there are other bright spots in the world where they have decided from the very beginning they don't want parallel school systems for just refugees. They want refugees to be part of the national school system. In some places, I think Uganda is a good example of this, there are refugee schools where Ugandan students are seeking and supporting an education. It's not just about the education, it's also about social cohesion, reconciliation, a way for people to have a sense of belonging and inclusion. And until we can find those political solutions, and that we started talking about in this conversation, we need to take more steps in this way to be able to support host countries, host communities, and local authorities to be able to provide quality education.
It's yet another annual college fair organized by Education USA for young, aspiring Nigerian students to explore their potential in various U.S. universities. The event, which held in Lagos, Nigeria, saw students from various colleges who are seeking current information about studying in accredited universities in the United States with the robust help of over 40 admission officers. Here's more in this report.
You can see the excitement on their faces as they walk into a lineup of various U.S. universities, curious to know more about these institutions that suit their career journey. This is the 22nd Education USA College Fair in Lagos, Nigeria, where students seize the opportunity to ask representatives from over 40 U.S. universities about admission processes.
Education USA is a service of the United States Embassy that is just amazing in terms of both helping Nigerian students go to study in the United States, but also to help our universities engage with Nigerian students in a very structured way. This is a way to provide Nigerian students with a very clear path towards studying in the United States and getting a further education.
Advisor Supervisor at Education USA, Chinenye Owadeleke, explains the network's commitments to ensuring a wide range of higher education opportunities to international students, as well as the criteria for scholarship programs for students with exceptional academic records.
We are also doing 2 sessions on the steps to apply to study in the U.S., as well as how to get a student visa, which is very important. So the U.S. State Department has a special program for high-achieving low-income students. It's called our Opportunity Funds Program. And we're looking for students who can't afford the upfront cost of applying to study in the U.S. We look for excellent academic records, so A's and B's in WAEC. We are also looking for graduate students with a first class or a very high 2-1. They must also be involved in extracurricular activities and must have an ethos of giving back.
Admission officers speak about what makes their universities stand out.
We're ranked number 2 in the U.S. for work experience, internships, and co-ops. So that means that we're really setting our students up for success when they graduate. Like we were just talking about, we do have Nigeria and Ghana are some of our top countries. So we have a really amazing West African community right on campus. And located in downtown Philadelphia, it's just an amazing, vibrant city for our students to study in and live in. It's also predominantly non-white, so it's just a really welcoming community.
In Nigeria, we have a lot of graduates. I've been in Abuja, I've been in Lagos, and I've met a lot of students. They said, oh, I graduated 10, 20 years ago. I met someone here who says, my father went to Washington State University. So if you're looking for a university that has a great network in Nigeria, and you're looking for a great academics and a great environment, then Washington State University might be for you.
After hours of interaction and knowledge gathering, these potential students share their excitement and anticipation about studying in the United States.
Why would I study structural engineering is because I feel the world can be improved in terms of its infrastructure, and I feel I can be the right person to do it with the right resources, which I feel Caltech or the University of Miami can give to me.
The course I want to study is chemical engineering, and it's a difficult course, and a lot of universities don't actually offer it. So when I came for the fair, I checked some universities, they actually don't offer chemical engineering, but I do know that some of the Ivy Leagues like MIT or Brown, they actually offer chemical engineering. So I feel like the US has more options for me to do my course, and yeah, I'm really excited.
With over 430 international students advising centers in more than 175 countries in the world, the US is hoping to attract young, bright minds and provide world-class education to as many as possible.
And finally on the program, cooperation between Niger and China is growing stronger by the day, all thanks to China's offer of opportunities to keep improving the Nigerian economy and people. The height of the partnerships and cooperation was highlighted at the celebration of the National Day for both countries, as well as the Mid-Autumn Festival and inauguration of the 4th session of the Chinese Enterprises Associated, established in Kaisia for short. Our correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
China is at least 9,903 kilometers from Nigeria, but that is no hindrance for the Chinese in the country to commemorate the festivals and events just as they would have back home. That's what happened this weekend in Lagos as the Chinese government marked 4 occasions in one. The national days of both Nigeria and China, which fall on October 1st, China marking 73 years and Nigeria marking 63. The Mid-Autumn Festival, the 20th anniversary of the Chinese Enterprises Association established in Nigeria, CICEA for short, and the inauguration of the 4th session of the association. Amidst the decorations signifying joint partnerships between both countries, the Chinese Consul General in Lagos, Yan Yuting, welcomed the guests in Chinese.
Mr. Anidang Dolabo Bagus.
She would later speak on cooperation and partnerships between the two countries.
Nigeria is a very important strategic partner of China, and our two countries developed in many areas, just like political and economic and people-to-people exchange. So I really will that our cooperation and economic and people-to-people exchange will strengthen in the future.
The hall is filled with members of the Chinese community in Lagos and their Nigerian friends. The Minister of State, Steel Development, Uba Megari Ahmadu, representing the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, not only extolled the relationship between the two countries, but pointed out China's role in development and industrialization.
China's enduring support has significantly contributed to Nigeria's advancement across various facets of national development, encompassing technology, infrastructure, science, steel production, marine affairs, and the blue economy, among others.
The Gombe State Governor, who was represented by the Deputy Governor, Dr. Manasseh Jato, presented more opportunities for partnerships.
We are sure that if we meet serious investors like we have from China, we will all partner to see that we collaborate to facilitate technological transfer, but for immediate use to create employment, improve the economic standing of the state, and also revenue to the state, apart from what the investors will really benefit.
The event closed with activities showcasing Chinese culture, which delighted the crowd. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Apologies for the mix-up. That report highlighted the cooperation between Nigeria and China, which we did say is growing by the day, thanks to China's offer of opportunities to keep improving the Nigerian economy and that of its people. Well, that's our program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.